Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe Show here with Jack Kelly after a Carabao Cup victory. Jack, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Wasn't at the cottage last night for the first time in God knows how long. I was at Chelsea against Brighton, which is good because I can give you the Chelsea lowdown. You give me the Fulham lowdown on last night. But first, a word from our sponsors, Green King Sport Joe.
Spot on, and it's great timing this week. But for the whole of the 2023 to 24 season, Fulhamish is sponsored by Green King Sport, and we're very, very grateful for that. That is where football is more than a game. Green King Sports venues are showing every televised Fulham fixture over the course of the season. So instead of turning onto the internet for a dodgy stream, like I did for Crystal Palace, you can get your mates together and get down to the local Green King pub to get closer to the action.
Yeah, and as we've said before, the Green King Sport, they've just recently launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, which will be home to fan content, deals, and competitions throughout the season. Drop them a follow, and you won't be the first to know about all this. And you'll be helping out Fulhamish too. And for the first time in forever, we're on Sky. Monday Night Football against Walham Green. Them lot down the road.
Walham Green.
I've already said Chelsea once this video, so it doesn't really matter. Chelsea away at Fulham, Monday Night Football. It's on Sky, so if you can't make it to the game, just go to a Green King Sport, buy an icebreaker, or 3 or 4 or 7, and watch us maybe get some more points out of Chelsea, Joe. It should be a cracking game. Shall we look back on Palace quickly?
Yes.
Skip ahead to Norwich and then preview Chelsea. We got some comments, or we got a comment saying that we weren't being as positive, or not being positive at all, really. But you know, the game against Luton, we were saying off air, you know, it wasn't the best game. We just about got through it. But Joe, I am super positive about Fulham right now, despite not scoring against Palace. We won last night. I thought we were excellent in probably both games. I know I didn't see much of Luton, Norwich, but from what I saw, we looked good. And Palace as well, Joe. We looked really good, and we probably should have won the game.
Yeah, I mean, let's touch on Palace first quickly, like you suggested. And I think that was probably our best performance of the season, with the possible exclusion of the Tottenham game in the Cup. I think that we were excellent at the back. We really reduced them to limited opportunities. We know how difficult it is to defend against players like Eze, and we kept him really quiet, whilst offering quite a lot going forward as well. And I really thought it was going to be the one where Jimenez got his goal. There was that chance in the second half where he was almost caught in two minds. Do I pull it across? Do I shoot? In the end, it looked like he went for the former, but he didn't execute it to perfection, and the chance went. But I was very impressed by his all-round game, getting in the right positions, holding the ball up, coming deep to get into play and send it out wide. And in fact, the entire Fulham performance was just much more what I would expect from this team. We should have probably won the game, would have taken a point beforehand. I think when I predicted it, I said 1-1, and the only reason I didn't say 0-0 was because I thought we'd let one in. And I wanted to back us to get the point. So 0-0 was, it's two solid teams that, you would imagine will both finish pretty middle of the road this season, barring something unfortunate happening to one or both. Hopefully not us if it does happen to one. I think that was the performance that was needed after Luton, where we didn't really create anything. This was the opposite. We created chances, we didn't score them. And I would much rather be, as many suggested on Twitter, a team that is keeping clean sheets, and we've now kept the most in the league, joint with Man City with 3, and not scoring. Because ultimately, it's an easier problem to solve. If you're leaky at the back and scoring, that's a deeper issue within the team. We're creating the chances. I do think eventually they will go in, and we'll come on to speak about Norwich in more detail after you give your opinion on the Palace game. But slightly similar issues last night against weaker opposition in terms of putting away chances. But again, the chances were coming, which to me is the main positive for both games.
I think that was the main takeaway from both our victories so far this season, was the fact that we'd beaten Everton and we'd beaten Luton. We hadn't created enough within those games. And it was a completely different story when we played Crystal Palace, because from basically minute 1, we were at them. And, I was criticising Pereira and Willian for not really getting involved enough. and Wilson was on the bench, and I was thinking, oh, okay, if Wilson's on the bench, we're going to really have to ramp it up. But Pereira got in behind and got a shot away very early on. Willian cut inside, got a shot away, forced another save from Sam Johnston, and it just felt like things were clicking. And even Raul Jimenez, who has got quite a lot of stick so far this season for his performances, I thought he played pretty well, and he actually had a really decent chance. It was a decent shot he got away, again saved by the keeper. And yeah, it was just that one where obviously Bobby Reid wins it in the 3-on-1 or 3-on-2 situation. He basically has three options. He can shoot, he can go to Pereira, or he can go to Jimenez. And going to Jimenez was the worst of those three options. And I was like, get your head up, because on the other side, Pereira's running free. And yeah, it just didn't quite work out. And I think that was the biggest opportunity squandered. And in terms of defensively, I thought every time Eze got the ball, it felt like something was going to happen. Apart from that, I wasn't too fussed or threatened or felt threatened by Palace's attack. But Eze was that sort of, key player in the midfield or in the attacking phase. And, he had a shot wide. He was trying to set up Jean-Philippe Mateta and Edouard. But it wasn't really coming off for Palace. Mateta got in behind and scuffed his shot, and Leno saved it. Apart from that, Palace didn't create an awful lot, and I thought that was down to some really good defensive displays from wing-backs in Robinson and Castagna, and I thought Diop was pretty solid alongside Tim Ream as well. And I was really pleased. I came out of that game thinking, boy, it's annoying we didn't score, but we gave a great account of ourselves, and we're on to 8 points from 6 games, which was the tally we had at this stage last season. And I was doing a little bit of... So now I feel like I'm in a position where, or anyone's in a position where they can sort of compare this season to last season quite easily now, because we're on the same sort of points. So match day 7, we beat Forest 3-2, and we're up to 11 points. And then I think we lost the next 2 in Newcastle and West Ham.
West Ham, yeah.
So basically, we're looking at this and going, after 9 points, after 9 games, if we're surpassing 11 points, we're on a better trajectory than we were last season. So it's quite easy to sort of compare and sort of go, well, actually, we're doing all right. And I think the Premier League is weaker this season. I think there are obviously still 3 teams on 1 point, one team losing 8-0 on Sunday in Sheffield United, who I'll be seeing on Saturday. I'll be interested to see how they bounce back from that. And yeah, I just feel very, overall, pretty positive about this Fulham team. And I am impressed with Willian and Pereira, because they did step it up. And when Iwobi came on as well, and we'll talk about Iwobi going on to the Norwich game, because he obviously scored last night. He's a great player. I'm really excited to have him at the club. Shall we move on to Norwich? Give me your lowdown. Ballo-Touré made his debut. Paulini was in the side. Kearney was in the team. And Vinicius scoring as well when he started, which is always good to see. So yeah, how did you find the game at Craven Cottage last night?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I think that 2-1 doesn't reflect the game at all. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know what scoreline would, because Peter Rutzer described it quite well at half-time, that Fulham probably could have been completely out of sight. But Norwich did have 2 huge chances when they really could have gone in level. One of which skewed wide by Josh Sargent, and the other was really well saved from Rodak. Really brave shot to save their striker when Bassi had slipped in the box. I was impressed by pretty much all of what I saw. Their goal at the end, I'll just touch on very quickly first, was a rare mistake from Polinia. Please show that to Bayern Munich. Because otherwise he was fantastic again. It was a great tackle by Diop, but the ball bounced back to, I think it was Jonathan Rowe who slid it through, and their new signing who came on instead of Plaqueta, who'd been quite dangerous, scored, and it was not a nervy end, but not as comfortable as we'd have liked it. I didn't think that Norwich was going to equalise, but it was not nice for it to not be, the last few minutes. To put it into perspective, Jack, as you weren't there, just before Norwich scored, because there was about a 2-minute gap between Iwobi and their goal, we had Rodrigo Muniz, who did end up coming on, Tyrese Francois and Luke Harris all stripped off in their kits with the board being prepared to sub them all on. But once Norwich scored, Marco Silva obviously decided this maybe isn't the game to bring them all on. Muniz came on later and nearly scored. It was a great save from the Norwich goalkeeper. Overall, I was pleased with what I saw. I was pleased for many reasons. I was pleased with Vinicius getting a goal, although I would say that I was actually underwhelmed with his overall performance. I think that he was far better when he came on against Luton, and he was far better when he performed in pre-season or last season. He just wasn't at his best last night. Still got a goal. Happy days. Should have had a hat trick. Skewed one wide on the volley in the first half. Missed an absolute sitter in the second half. Well, I don't really know what happened. He waited too long and he got his feet muddled up. It can happen. I'm delighted he scored. I don't think he's, and we'll go on to talk about it, done enough in that performance, despite scoring, to start against Chelsea, is my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think he has. I think everyone will be quite split on that because it's a very valid argument to say he scored. But ultimately, I felt like a lot of the time when it was going to Vinicius last night, it was a dead end. We lost the ball. Iwobi, I was very impressed with. Essentially set up the first goal, even though it won't go down as his official assist because it got deflected. And then his goal, I thought, was wonderful from the entire team, from Willian winning it back to Kearney laying it off to Wilson, who flicked it on to Iwobi with a great finish. The move of the night, the moment of the night, the goal of the night, for sure. It was fantastic. I thought that Rodak did well in goal when called upon, which was great to see. And I thought the majority of the defence had pretty stress-free, if not magnificent nights. I thought they were all just probably 6, 7 out of 10, fine. The exception to that would be Ballo-Touré, who I was very, very impressed with for the just under 70 minutes that he played. His final ball was slightly lacking, but he was really making a great effort to bomb on down the left-hand side, and he seemed to have a really good partnership going with Willian on the night. And speaking of Willian, I would say that was the sharpest he's looked this season. Maybe in accordance with some of his performance in the Palace game, where we were seeing the Willian of old a little bit when he cut inside and shot. Johnson saved. Aside from that, Kearney was good as normal when he plays in these cup games. Polini had another good day. Harry Wilson was more involved than he has been, which was a relief. I still don't think it was his finest performance, but he has now got his first goal involvement of the season with that assist. And yeah, that was it really. What I would say is that little shout out to Muniz, who when he came on, who I thought had a decent showing, and I was glad to see that he got a bit more action. Nearly got his goal, which would have been fantastic. But on the whole, Jack, this was a night we just had to win, get through to the next round. Happy days. The performance was overall good, if not spectacular. And again, we could have scored about 5 last night. In all honesty, we had some good chances. Not enough on target, but the ones that are off target weren't a million miles away for the most part. I was happy with what I saw. I'm happy with the cup draw as well. And I'm happy that we also have a little bit longer now before we play Fulham Green, as you said. And Jack, you were there.
I was there.
How are you recovering?
No, you know what? I mean, I take my job incredibly seriously. So if someone tells me to go to a game, then I just go.
Yeah.
I thought, first of all, the food was incredible. The options for dessert were marvelous. Carrot cake, Oreo cheesecake, strawberry mousse. It was incredible. I thought I was at the Ritz. Well, could have been, given it's Chelsea and we're in Chelsea. But in terms of the game, I was really excited to see Brighton. I looked at their lineup. I saw Ansu Fati, and I was like, "Here we go. This is gonna be great." João Pedro, who I've put in my FPL this year, I've got a lot of faith in him. And Brighton started brilliantly. They were catching out Chelsea almost, twice in the first half. Robert Sanchez playing out from the back. He basically gave the ball straight to João Pedro, who chipped it, and probably should have scored, but it went over the bar. Then Chelsea played out from the back again. They got caught out, and I think it was Fati who had the shot, and Sanchez got down to save it well to make up for a previous error. So Brighton were catching out Chelsea, and the Chelsea crowd were getting very twitchy, given recent events and stuff. And I thought that the goal sort of came against the run of play. I thought Chelsea in the first half created next to nothing. Mudryk had a shot in the first couple minutes that was straight at the keeper. Cole Palmer, who was Chelsea's man of the match for sure, had a little flicked effort right at the end of the first half, but that was the best they created. In the second half, Brighton actually really put it on them in the first 5 minutes, and then Chelsea sort of managed to get out, ride a storm, and they managed to score through Jackson. It was a nice ball through from Palmer, well finished. Jackson had a couple chances to score a second goal. He went through on goal. Sanchez saved. He then scored again, but it was offside. It took him about 35 seconds to realise he was still celebrating whilst Brighton were trying to play on. And then I thought Brighton are going to really bring the kitchen sink to Chelsea, but they just didn't quite get it going. And a chance at the back post of Solly March was well saved by Sanchez. And did I say Sanchez has saved? Sanchez plays for Chelsea, isn't he? He obviously for Brighton, so getting confused there. Who was in goal for Verbreggen? He was in goal. He did very well. And then João Pedro with a volley over the bar. And that was all she wrote. What was interesting to take away from the game was that Ben Chilwell went off injured right at the end, and Chelsea, despite only making 4 changes, finished the game with 10 men. They could have just brought on another man. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. But you know, Chelsea coming into the game against us now on the back of a 1-0 win over Brighton is a bit annoying because the momentum might just slightly be up. But I wasn't absolutely blown away by them, and I thought Brighton made them look pretty ordinary at times. And I think if we, under the lights at Craven Cottage, really get in their faces, we're going to make it difficult for them. It's not like when we played Chelsea at the Cottage last season, where, of course, we still won, but they had like João Felix, and he really ran the show at times in that game.
Yeah.
You know, I am starting to think that Mudryk's goal is going to come, and I really would hate it if it happens on Monday night. I think Ogochukwu in midfield looks pretty decent. Moise Caicedo also made a couple mistakes last night, but he looked okay. So their midfield is looking good. They've got obviously Conor Gallagher coming back into the fold as well, because they rested him last night, or they brought him on after 70 minutes or so. There's a lot to sort of be confident about if you're a Chelsea fan, but I still think that Fulham will give them a game. I don't think we're going to necessarily roll them over, but I think we'll give them a difficult game and definitely probably get something from the game, Joe. That was my takeaway from Stamford Bridge. Kept an eye on things at Fulham. Obviously, you see, 2-1, you think, okay, maybe we, played pretty well and got through it. But I thought Fulham, from the highlights, looked pretty decent. Yeah, pretty happy with how Wilson and Willian and Iwobi looked. Vinicius definitely should have got more than one. And Calvin Bassey went off injured. Is that a cause for concern?
Yeah, it didn't look awful. Like, I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, is he going to be out for weeks or months? But he went down, and Ream very quickly warmed up, and Silva said post-match that it's been an ongoing back issue. Not too concerned, because Bassey had a good game other than that slip in the first half, which is not really a mistake. It's just unfortunate. I think that the concern here is that with Tosin out injured, and Bassey potentially out injured, we can't afford anything to happen to Ream or to Diop, because we don't have anyone else unless we call up Defougerol. And as much as I loved seeing him in pre-season, I don't know if he's necessarily ready to be thrown into a Premier League game from the off. I think that one other takeaway from Chelsea at the weekend is you mentioned Chilwell, who, from a Fulham perspective, I'm just hoping he's not back at all by Monday. He can recover in his own time after that, please.
Yes.
Or just have the night off, recover before then, and just watch it on TV or at a Green King pub. Gusto got sent off at the weekend against Villa, and Jackson picked up his 5th yellow after 6 games, which is giving Palhinha a run for his money and then some. It's quite. Palhinha, I remember he got his last year after 7 games. He got his 5th at Forest, and even that was something pretty special.
Well, the interesting thing about the Jackson yellow cards is all 5 of them been for dissent.
Oh my goodness!
All 5 have been for dissent.
You would think he would have learned after the first couple to shut up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
We're
not complaining.
No, not complaining. Until last night, I probably was complaining because he's been rubbish this season. But then he got his goal, and nearly got a second goal as well. I've watched the highlights back, and he looked dangerous. You would imagine that Armando Broja will start in his place. I know that he came
Yeah.
on last night. For Gusto's, I mean, was it Cucurella that started at right back last night in his place? That might be the same situation on Monday. I remember when Malacia for United played on the other side of defence when we played them at home last season, and Willian really had a field day. And there was a bit of chat about in our chat earlier, Jack, that wonder if Willian could do the same if there was an inverted fullback that is only there because there's no one else to play there. That would be great. I don't. I feel differently about this game against. I'm just going to call them Chelsea now. I'm not Walham Green. I'm not Gentleman Jim. Against Chelsea than I did for that one in January last season when we beat them for the first time in 16 years. For that one, I really felt like everything was in our favour. Even with the João Felix thing, as you said, he was probably the best player on the pitch that night until he got sent off. But it felt like the football gods were sort of looking down at us at that point. Leno made several saves that night. I think he made 9 from memory. Chelsea had chances despite us, despite them going down to 10 men. But this one's a bit different because Chelsea have actually, stats-wise, played well in most games this season. And by that, I just mean they haven't conceded ridiculous amount of chances. They've created a fair amount themselves. I'm a bit hesitant that at some point it's going to click. And by click, I don't think they're going to go on a crazy run and necessarily finish top 4 or anything like that. But I think they'll definitely improve from what we've seen. And I'm just hoping that that day is not Monday. I don't think it will be. I think that Fulham are going to perform well, and we can do our predictions in a second. But that's all I'm hesitant about here. I think that last season when we played them, they were playing badly as well as getting the bad results. Whereas now, I think as well as you saw last night, I don't think that's necessarily the case. But we need to take advantage, and we need to go all out to win this game. And in terms of team, Jack, what do you reckon you'd play?
Oh, yeah, it is worth mentioning that Chelsea's run of fixtures is pretty horrendous. They come
Awful.
to us, which is not going to be easy. Then they go to Burnley, which is not going to be easy. Then host Arsenal and Brentford. Then they go to Spurs, host City, go to Newcastle, host Brighton, go to United, go to Everton before hosting Sheffield United. And that's in mid-December. That is insane run of fixtures. And for a team who's, they won last night, but they're on a low ebb. They've only won one league game this season against bottom of the table or, 19th Luton Town. I mean, I don't fear for them because I don't, I'm a Fulham fan, but you would hypothetically fear for them if you were anybody else.
We're rooting against them, but if you're a Chelsea fan, you'd be scared.
Yeah. And of course, they're waiting for Nkunku to come back, and they've got a whole load of injuries. It's incredible. And obviously, Chilwell, Gusto, and Jackson doesn't really help proceedings when they come to us on Monday night. In terms of a team, okay, this is tricky. So Tete hasn't played the last 2 games, has he?
No.
He was in the stands against Palace. He was right below me, actually, from what I saw, because he was with his family. But he had a slight injury issue, didn't he? Marco said. So for just insurance reasons, I'm going to go with Leno, Castagna, Diop, Ream, Robinson, Paulinia, Reed, Pereira, and then I'll go Willian. Willian, Wilson, Raul Jimenez. Going off what you said, but then Iwobi's got to be in there, surely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will disagree with me about the Jimenez situation as well, because ultimately, Vinicius has got 2 goals this season in minimal minutes, other than last night.
I'd be happy with either. Do you know what I mean?
At this point, yeah, I would be happy with either. I would go with your team. I'm thinking, how can we fit Iwobi in there? And honestly, I'm thinking that the only way in is if he was instead of Pereira, and I'm not sure that would happen. I think it goes without saying that if Tete's fit, we'd both play him if he's not Castagna. The rest of the team I agree with. I think that the front three last night could work. I also think that it would work with Jimenez there because ultimately I like Jimenez's performances. Luton aside and Brentford aside this season, I think he's performed well in every game. Hit the posts against Everton. Really great game at Arsenal. Was big in terms of us scoring the goal at City and then nearly scored again himself. Good against Palace as well without the goal. I just think that his movement could cause problems, but then so could Vinicius is. So ultimately, this is a big moment now because
2 up top.
3, Rodrigo Muniz.
Yeah, imagine we're at 4-3-3. That'd be so funny.
I'd understand the reasons for either at this point. I'd go with Jimenez based on what I saw last night. I wouldn't want Vinicius to put in a performance like that again, off the ball more than on the ball. I don't think he was offering much. But then again, he was in the right position for 3 chances. Would he take one of those 3 chances against Chelsea? I would say probably at least one of them. So we also mustn't forget the goal he scored against them last season basically changed his Fulham career. At that point, no one was happy with him starting games. With no disrespect to him, it was just such a big drop off from Mitrovic, and then he just performed when he needed to. But the rest of the team, I agree with Jack in terms of a score prediction. I do think we're going to win.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say that our clean sheet run will end, and I'm gonna say that we're gonna win 2-1.
2-1, incredible. I was also thinking winning because you got to back them, and I feel like the win in the Premier League is coming. There's enough in that performance against Norwich. There was enough in the performance against Palace that makes me think that we can, despite the opposition. This is probably the worst of the top 7, top 6 teams at this current moment in time. I think that there's a chance we can win.
Yeah.
And I'm going to raise you and go 3-1 Fulham.
Oh my goodness.
And get a goal on the break through someone like Harrison Reed finishing off the job. But he probably won't be on.
That's fantastic.
He probably won't be on actually beyond 75 minutes. But I think Iwobi will score from the bench.
Okay.
I'm going to back whoever plays up front to score. I think Chelsea will equalise, and then I think maybe Harrison Reed puts us 2-1 up, and then Iwobi gets us the 3-1 goal. I'm going with a bit rogue goal scorers in terms of Harrison Reed for Monday night. I am excited. I am back in my seat for the first time since we played Leicester at home. Goodness me. So yeah, it's going to be brilliant. And obviously, we beat Chelsea again. Not only do we go up to 11 points, but we compound Chelsea to another defeat. And we'd be sitting, how many points above them would be?
We'd be 6 above them. They're on 5.
Because they're on 5 points. Goodness me. So it's a huge chance for Fulham. One last thing to mention. The draw was good. I mean, Ipswich away, say what you want about Ipswich's form. I think they're incredible. And I think that's one of the toughest games, but the teams in that draw, West Ham, Arsenal, Chelsea, United, Newcastle, we just avoided them all.
Yeah.
And we got an Ipswich team who are just on a very good run of form away from home. But there's no reasons to why we can't. You can't look at Wolves and be like, well, Wolves lost their 3-2. Yeah, but Wolves were 2-0 up and their game management was terrible. And Ipswich ran the show. We can go there, stamp our authority, play Palini in the midfield, and I think we'll be all right. And we'll be through to a quarter final.
We play a strong team, Jack. We should beat them. Put it that way.
And Marco Silva's reiterated that he wants to play a strong team throughout the cup, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and it's quite simple. Yes, could it have been an easy game? Yeah, but there's not many. Ultimately, when you get to this stage of the competition, the amount of teams outside the Premier League are limited. We've avoided the big boys, which I wish we could have done last year in the FA Cup draw before the quarterfinal, but that's another story.
God.
Ultimately, it's winnable. Ipswich will also be thinking it's winnable, but I think that we've got the stronger chance because we've got the better team. Full of respect for what Ipswich are doing. Really like the way they play, but it does leave them very open at the back. And I think better teams can exploit that, and hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran McKenna's Ipswich, like you say, play incredibly open. And then, their game at the weekend against Blackburn Rovers, they were suddenly 3-1 up and sort of cruising. And then and then they pull it back to 3-3, and they're going to chase the game again, and yet they just have the quality to go on and win the game. Was it Luongo who scored the winning goal? It was a brilliant goal. Ipswich, I would like Ipswich to go back-to-back promotions and get back to the Premier League. That would be incredible. And we haven't been to Ipswich since we played them in 2017, and a certain Rui Font got a goal for Fulham. And obviously it's difficult because Mansfield v Port Vale was the first draw of the first tie of the draw. So that was already two favourable teams out. So basically Ipswich or Blackburn or Exeter or Middlesbrough were the best four options in that draw. And we got a team in Ipswich who I just think not only is it going to be a really, really good game between two very good teams, but, when was the last time I went to Ipswich? 2017. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Joe Sansom, half an hour. We've rattled on, but there's been plenty to talk about, which makes a change because so far this season there hasn't been an awful lot of storyline with Fulham. But, Walham Green on Monday and a decent point at Palace and a win in the Cup was worth chatting about, Joe.
Oh, for sure. And it's the one we all look forward to as Fulham fans. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere under the lights. To anyone watching at home, in a Green King pub or there, enjoy it, take it in. It's very rare until last season, and we were coming into these games with Chelsea confident, and we need to really savour these times because they spend billions and we are competing with them. And let's hope that we can beat them on Monday.
I wonder if Monday Night Football is just going to be half an hour on what happened at the weekend, half an hour on Chelsea's woes, and not a word on the host of the evening, Fulham FC. But we will be there. Come on, Fulham. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Cheers, Jack. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
This was really good fun. Really look forward to it now. See everyone on Monday evening in the Golden Lion, pre-match, maybe in the concourse. And come on, Fulham.